because I'm pretty sure you'll just be able to join my game very soon. Okay, well, hello and welcome to SunnyRedemption Sailing, your bi-weekly voyage for BS-free gaming news. And there will be plenty of gaming news, but, well, I just wanted to make sure that the good people of the internet and you know that last week was the best week of my life in South Africa. I got engaged. I'm engaged to be married to Bobo. The love of my life.
Congrats.
Thank you. Okay. So I'll just not bury the lead and get right into it. I got there on Sunday and was really tired from the economy flight, but it was a really good. Oh wait, I should probably remove my vote because we probably will want to do Hunter's Call, right? I'm guessing. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm down for Hunter's Call stuff.
Alrighty. Well, so Sunday, my little man comes running and gives me the biggest hug at the airport, like I thought he would, and then immediately goes to grab my bags. And the next couple days are rest days, because I am so tired at that point, from nearly 24 hours awake, including a 2-hour layover in Dubai. That was basically just me running from one gate to another. Then Tuesday we went to Ushaka Marine World, which, hey, this is vaguely video game related. The first thing we did at this amazing theme park in South Africa was actually go to a VR arcade that was on premises. And I got to play, I believe it was Project Cars VR. There was a challenge going on where you could win prizes if you beat a set amount of time at at a particular challenge track. That one was super duper hard because for the first one, the first attempt, they did not turn off the rumbling in the cage, and that was that I had been sat in with my headset on, and that was hard. So I ended up changing it, but still did not quite qualify for the challenge. So I ended up just doing a different track, and that was fun. Little man also did it. I was very impressed because he managed to go forward most of the time and not crash into walls. But yeah, I'm not used to the wheel setup. If I had a PlayStation controller, I probably would have beaten that hands down and gotten the hat that was promised. There we go. So then Wednesday we went on a half-day safari around the area of Pietermaritzburg, which is a little bit to the west of this. Durban, for those who don't know, is a deep harbor in the northeastern coast of South Africa, not very far from the border with Mozambique, or, thankfully for me, very far by plane from Swaziland, which is where Bobo and Little Man came from. Anyway, so I got to feed an elephant by hand. That was awesome. This 7-ton animal was just eating right out of the palm of my hand with this alien tentacle thing that looked like it had a mind of its own, as it just grabbed me and got snot all over my hand. So that, and we got to see some sleeping lions, because lions are not very active during the day, thank goodness. We got to see wildebeest and antelope and all that, but my favorite part was actually seeing Bobo so excited to see her favorite animal, which is giraffes. There were like 10 of them in a group, and they were all just chilling, which was really cool to see. They were kind of hard to find at first, but then we got close enough, and it was magical. It was still a game preserve, so not quite the wild, but still, that was fun. And then I mock proposed to her with a souvenir gift shop ring, because I was like, oh, you know, this is funny. It's only 60 Rand, which is not even $1. But it got me thinking. I had been thinking, like, hey, I really want to spend my life with these people someday, you know, in a general time frame. I was scared to put a time frame on anything because of the chaos. But then Thursday night, after she worked really hard making Portuguese chicken for us and had tried my peanut butter noodle recipe, even though she didn't like it, I was like, what am I waiting for? I want this woman to smile every day. I want to wake up next to her when I'm old. So, on Thursday, I got down on one knee without a ring, and she said yes. But I knew I had to get a ring. So, I went off by myself in the morning to get flowers and a ring from American Swiss with a shield pattern on it. Lots of little diamonds. And then I gave her that ring on Friday. Yeah, it was a really great vacation. But a lot of the stuff that you're going to really like, I know, is that little old man and I did a lot of things together, and a lot of them were Sonic related. Mom got got some Legos for him, and we played quite a bit of Sonic and Spider-Man Save the Dinosaurs. But also, one of the features of the Sonic Lego set is that they have a small plastic ball of some sort. Yeah, ball, where you put in the little Sonic and then hit it with a launcher, and then it goes flying. It actually looked almost exactly like Sonic would if he was Lego, just going around and around as they did that. So that was very clever. The first thing he drew when he got the coloring book that my mom also got him was Sonic. He should be the next character designer for Sega with that 9-year-old drawing talent. It can't be worse than Kristen Weston Chandler. But, anyway. So, then, we really got into Sonic Underground, actually. I saw the first
things, sure.
I saw the first couple episodes, and, well, he's definitely watched more than me since then. Now that they're moved into their new apartment with a new TV that I got for them, and other very necessary furniture that we got. That was a lot of shopping, and you know, sometimes he can be cranky, but he's 9. These things happen, and I wasn't perfect either. But the thing is that, like, love is not about being perfect; it's about being there. And he was just so happy that I was there. He kept saying, "Daddy, I want to do this," and you know, sometimes I'd be tired and have to tell him like, "Hey, Daddy needs a minute," but most of the time I was up for it, and even if it was just him dancing to Green Hill Zone or Sky Sanctuary, that was really cool. We didn't watch the Sonic movies or anything because we'd already both seen that a lot, but I watched a lot of Pixar with him and really started appreciating that again. Especially Coco, where I cried thinking of Remember Me. And then I cried all over again watching The Wild Robot with him, which is now my favorite movie of all time. Simply because, well, he's a little goose. He's my little silly goose. I'm a robot who's like, I have to do everything perfectly because he's relying on me, just like Roz in the movie. But you know, all that parenting requires is showing up and then probably making a ton of mistakes. But like, you know, at least I'm there to help now. Or I wish it was more in person, but that's just the time zone difference, and it went by so quickly that week. But then I had an amazing layover in Dubai. Well, mostly amazing. I'll get to it in a second, but I splurged for the economy, or excuse me, for the business class in Emirates, and that was awesome because they had a reclining seat, which was perfect. That was the best part of the flight, though. Even the economy on Emirates was really, really good, and they also had some decent games on there sometimes. Like, once I got a version that in business class that actually had like a good controller that wasn't broken or overheating or anything like that. I had a decent time with Zuma on that. and Peggle and other puzzle games. There were other games I tried, like Polterghost, which is a really bad Streets of Rage beat 'em up, and Rally, which is a really bad Sega Rally clone. Like, a lot of these games were bad, but they were probably ported by DTI and GE way back in 2012, because that's the latest date that I could find on any of them. Even for one that seemed like it came out from 1995, like Wacky Safari, which was a side-scroller where you had to tranquilize and capture animals, where I rage quit because the D-pad on the controller was just so terrible that it made it nearly impossible to try and jump and then shoot the charging moose as it slammed me into a wall over and over again. So, yeah, not great game selection, but that's not usually what most people do on in-flight TVs anyway. Even me, I was watching things like The Apprentice, which was pretty good, but definitely censored compared to the version you may have heard of. And Renaissance, The Blood and the Beauty, which showed me just how personal the rivalry could get between Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. So, I had fun then, but when I got to Dubai, I thought that things would be super easy, and they weren't entirely. Because, you know how in Japan they bring out sushi on conveyor belts? They had that in the Dubai Mall, and I was like, I have to get that, because everything else was like, oh, we're such a fancy copy of a French cafe, or a steakhouse, or blah blah blah. I'm like, if I want to spend loads of money on that, I'll do that elsewhere. If I'm gonna get lost in this gigantic mall, and I mean it was gigantic, it was way too huge, and I kept getting lost a lot. I was gonna just get something unique, and Yo Sushi was really that. 99% of the food was really good. There was popcorn shrimp, and sushi, and edamame, and all sorts of things, just coming out that you could grab for 145 dirhams, which is like $1 is 3 dirhams, so that plus drinks for another 40 dirhams was really something, especially since I still had some cash after buying Dubai chocolate, which the viral Dubai chocolate people like is good for a reason. It's so good. But I actually like the hazelnut version.
I actually had some because a coworker brought some in. So parents had gone.
Fun.
Yeah, I can vouch for it. It was very good.
Well, unfortunately, when I got to the crab salad, it was tainted. So I ended up leaving a negative review all over my table. And I was not feeling very good for a minute there. So the staff was like, hey, everything okay? They comped me for my food, obviously. And then they also called Dubai security, and the security guard took me to a doctor who took me to the American hospital. So I was out of commission for a couple of hours while they gave me fluids and basically liquid Tylenol and Advil. But it was way more expensive, and now I have to reimburse that with my insurance, so that's fun. Still, I was determined after I got discharged from the hospital around 4 o'clock to finally go to motiongatedubai. So that's exactly what I did. I got there with about 2.5 hours to spare in the park, and I was very nervous about how much I would actually be able to do, but except for the Hunger Games motion simulator, that was the first thing I tried, the lines for practically everything were 5 minutes long. I don't know if it was just the time of day that most people had left, or if things were a little bit down for the season, or if the park is just suffering from problems, because there were also several attractions that had technical problems. Like, John Wick was closed, the Underworld 4D theater was closed, and the first thing I tried after the Hunger Games motion simulator, which was very well themed. Everything was so well themed to the series or other property that they were, following. But it was a couple minutes of a really meh motion simulator where I could barely hear what was going on. That was a big problem. Was a lot of the sound systems were just not great on many of the rides in the less attended lands, it seems, because, well, yeah, it was not a very long wait even for Hunger Games, and so I then tried to go to Columbia Land because I figured, you know what? Yeah, I said I would boycott it, but it's like I've already paid for the tickets, so some portion of that money is already going to Sony and Columbia Pictures anyway, which means I might as well enjoy it myself and on vacation. And I had little time, so I wanted to get as many rides in as possible. Unfortunately, the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs water ride was closed for technical issues, so I ended up joining a queue of 1 for Ghostbusters Battle of New York. I was literally the only Ghostbuster, and there were so many ghosts, so it was impossible to get rid of them all by myself. But I won at 34,000 points with no competition. Then I did the Hotel Transylvania ride, which was like a dark ride. It was fine. The animatronics didn't really move or say all that much. Yeah, whatever. Then the real star of the show, after I walked through Smurfs Land, it was like, oh, hey, this is neat. You know, for little kids, sure, but like, if I had a really little kid, I'd probably go by there. It's a flat ride area for families, you know, whatever. I went to DreamWorks Land, which is definitely the reason to go to motiongatedubai if you do that. I wouldn't really recommend it, just because Dubai is so expensive to go to, but since I already had the layover, I was like, I really gotta check this out. Overall, maybe I would have enjoyed Warner Brothers World Abu Dhabi a little bit more, but that was farther, and I was nervous about my flight. So anyway, back to that. The DreamWorks Land has 4 mini lands within it, and I got to try Shrek first. I did watch the classic Star Trek episode, A Piece of the Action, so that I had that on my mind for a second. Oops. But yeah, Shrek was impeccably themed. They had a very cool little log that you sat in, and it would spin around and go up and down. I don't really know quite how to describe this ride at the moment, with my brain being mush from my travel still, but it was really cool. Then they had an impeccably detailed dark ride, recapping the entire story of the first movie in a very humorous fashion, as like a puppet show for Shrek's kids and Donkey's kids. So that was clever. Like the animatronics were very puppet themed, which made sense and was charming. Then I went to How to Train Your Dragon Land, and oh boy, let me tell you, that was fantastic. The theming was the best out of all the lands that I saw. You know, there was like a splash place and a Viking boat ride, so that was just kind of okay, and I skipped that obviously. But the How to Train Your Dragon Dragon Gliders ride was so technically awesome. Like, there were slow bits, and then there were parts where we were diving, and it really felt like you were flying, and really cool projection and animatronics, especially towards the end with a really impressive animation there. And then I went to Madagascar Land, and I didn't have much of an expectation for that, but I got on what the staff called the fastest ride in the park, and I was like, okay, I might as well check it out. It was like a rocket. It was like I was strapped to a rocket, and it was just out of control. I was screaming the entire time, and it really slammed me back. Fortunately for afterwards, I got to see other people screaming, because for both the How to Train Your Dragon ride and the Madagascar one, parts of the ride actually are visible to the outside when people, you know, are just walking around, and you can fly over basically that whole land, which is really, really cool. And so yeah, that was nice. It ended on a bit of a dour note for me with Kung Fu Panda Land, just because while the theming was again very solid, and you know, at this time I was running on mozzarella sticks, which was all I could grab before the park closed its rides. That was my worry. It was, well, that was like $7.99 for five mozzarella sticks, which apparently inflation has come from my mozzarella sticks, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Then there was a motion simulator again, that where you were ostensibly going into water, but no water effects, which I complained about to the staff, and they said, well, more people complained about getting spritzed in the face with water. Guess not everybody really likes that immersion, but it really was missing something without that, and that was the only ride that was there. I think there was like a teacup thingy for kids, but that was it. So that was fine, but I was like, okay, I got 10 minutes, I gotta go back real quick, and the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs ride was working, thankfully, and I managed to get that going. It was a decent rapids, nothing too intense or anything like that, just because of the large bumper on there, and I don't know what's going on with the sound on Sea of Thieves today, but I'll check that later and hope that it worked. It seems like the output and input are working, so I don't really know what's going on, but whatever. So yeah, then that completed my experience with that, and I then went back to the Dubai Mall to have a free a dinner at a fancy Lebanese restaurant called Al Halab as the last thing of my Go City Pass. I originally wanted to do 3 things. Go to the top of the Burj Khalifa, but then it became more like the Hurl Khalifa, so I skipped that, and then Motion Gate Dubai, which would have been like $100 by itself, and the whole pass was $209, and then the dinner, which was really, really good. Like all sorts of hummus and tabbouleh and other such things as appetizers, and then this impeccably cooked lamb with rice dish. I had to leave before dessert because I was nervous about my flight, but they gave me a free hotel with my flight. The airport hotel was really cool, actually, about helping me with transportation, and they even checked in on me because they had heard that I had had stomach problems. Probably because they had to send the doctor a scan of my passport, as I had stupidly left that in my room, and that was something that could have easily ended in disaster, but, well, it all worked out in the end. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like a hell of a trip.
Yeah, well, unfortunately your sound is not doing so hot, for some reason.
Really?
I gotta turn it off and turn it back on again. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here.
Still sound weird?
Yeah, the sound still is terrible. I don't know what's fucking going on here.
Is it so? Sea of Thieves also sounds terrible on your end? Is it
yeah, it does.
Audio?
I think something is wrong with the audio MIDI setup. I'm hoping that I can, cause like, oh, you know what? It might be the drift correction that I have on this. Hello?
Still sound weird?
No, it doesn't sound weird anymore because I got rid of the drift correction. I really am annoyed about this, but thankfully there wasn't much sound in the game that was actually, you know, worthwhile, and you were just listening to me info dump for most of it anyway, so, well now, I hear you also had a pretty awesome trip of your own. I would like to hear you talk at length about that.
Much more of a whirlwind kind of 24-hour trip, but yeah, I had an interesting time while you were away. One thing I should mention, I'll get the bad news out of the way. So we had to put our dog Bonnie down.
Oh no!
Developed cancer very quickly. And it was a very aggressive cancer. So it was literally in the past like 3 weeks it got worse and worse. Because I didn't even mention it last time we were playing because it seemed like, oh, it was going to be something where, you know, maybe she'll get something done with it. But she got a biopsy and it was like, oh, this is, you know, she probably only has weeks of natural life left, and she's clearly in more and more pain every day. So we made the decision last, when was it? When would that have been? Monday. It was Monday.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So that was a, you know, like we kind of knew it was coming, and my trip to Epic Universe was on last Thursday, so a week ago, and we already knew like, hey, it could be any day now. So I felt a bit guilty about taking my trip, but you know, it worked out. But there was a lot going on around that, and so getting to go down there was kind of a nice escape from that for a day, knowing that impending day was coming, because it seemed like wouldn't be long.
Well, since nobody ever you never mentioned Bonnie before. What breed was she again? On the show.
Shetland sheepdog.
Yeah, she was very cute.
12 years, which is
that's very good for a small dog.
Yeah.
That
like the lifespan for them is like 9 to 10 years generally. So, you know, it is what it is. It's just unfortunate where the cancer was too, because it was in her mouth into her jaw. So she literally couldn't eat. It was starting. Well, yeah, we started having to mush her food up. It was even starting to obstruct her airway a bit. So, you know, we're like, okay, we can do the humane thing and just, you know, put her down, or, you know, one day we're just going to come home and she's going to have choked to death. So, you know, at that point,
the balance of suffering.
It just sucks because, like, she was still doing fine health-wise otherwise. It's just like, you know, she was still getting around fine. It's clear that the tumor was getting very big very fast, and it wasn't, you know, removing it at that point wasn't an option. So
never easy having to do that, so I'm sorry, dude. But
yeah.
Epic Universe.
Yeah, so that was at least tempered by getting to do Epic Universe. So yeah, that is I would give it, just on a random grade scale, my day was about a 9.5 out of 10. Like, literally everything pretty much that could have gone right went right for me. Starting with, like, my flight that morning, my hotel check-in was... So I ended up getting a hotel. I wasn't even going to get a hotel because I was going to just fly back early the next morning anyways. But the last minute, I was like, I'll spend the $60 and just get a cheap Universal hotel. So I did
cheap Universal hotel for $60? Wow, okay.
With my pass holder discount. Normally it's like
right.
110, 120. Yeah. So I got that last minute, literally right as I was waiting to board my flight, practically.
Wow.
So I got that, and then I landed, and I'm like, okay, well, my check-in's not till 1. Maybe I'll just go to the park and drop my stuff off, or put it in a locker somewhere, because I packed pretty light, but I did still bring a little bag.
Right.
So I was like, screw it, I'll go to the hotel. I still want to make the early opening at Epic Universe, which was 10 a.m., so I was really, you know, fighting for every second that I could to get there. So I was like, I'll go to the hotel, get the transportation. It might take a little longer, but I might be able to get an early check-in. And then I did get an early check-in. They checked me in about 10 seconds, because I was like, hey, I'm here. I'm trying to make early opening. Do you have a room available? They're like, yep, here you go.
They were prepared, it seems.
Yeah. So I was able to do that very quickly. Literally just toss my bag in the room and run out the door, got a bus, which was right there. So I made it just in time for early opening at 10 a.m. The downside to that was the rides that were supposed to be opening early were Stardust Racers, which is the big coaster near the entrance.
Right.
And the whole Nintendo area were both supposed to be open early. Stardust Racers was down, so everyone was funneled to the Nintendo area, which meant...
boy!
Like, the line to even get in there for early admission was, like, insane.
Oh, goodness.
So... I'm putting down Voyage, by the way.
Yeah, I figured.
So, I get there right at early opening, but even then there have been people who have been there for hours waiting to get in and stuff. So I'm like at the back of the line, like, oh, I'm not going to get on any rides today. It's going to be so crowded. And then the Nintendo Land wasn't open on time either. Because again, like, it's all in technical rehearsal still. They have signs everywhere saying, hey, don't get mad at us. Everything's in technical rehearsal.
Yeah, definitely.
You agreed to this when you paid for it. So I was kind of like, well, even if I get on very few rides, it's still cool to be in the park. I got, it's not an expensive trip I'm taking. I'll get to go properly later. But, so Nintendo Land opened at around 10:30 or so about half an hour late. But then, there was a line way in front of me and way behind me. But I went straight for the Donkey Kong ride, and noticed it had a single rider line. So I waited in the single rider line as the regular line is already at like 90 minutes. And the single rider line was like 15.
Wow! Lucky.
Perks of going there solo is... that's the secret to that park, is just go alone. Because the single rider lines... Literally, I think every ride except one has a single rider line. So, I'll just fast forward through most of the rest of the day. I got on everything at least twice. Except the Harry Potter ride.
Oh, okay. So, the Harry Potter ride you only did the once.
There.
Wow.
Yes, because here's another stroke of luck. That ride you need to join a virtual queue, and they only give out wait times, or like, they only give out queue times they give them out 3 times a day at 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. So a couple minutes before that, literally everyone in the park stops what they're doing, gets on the Universal app, and tries to get a spot in that queue.
Wow.
Virtually. And so I failed at the 11 o'clock one, didn't get into the 3 o'clock one, and it's like a very low success rate for people. Like, most people you hear like, oh, I missed it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially since that ride is a very cool trackless dark ride, from what I understand.
So, yes, it is very cool, and I'll tell you how I know, because I actually did get on it through an insane stroke of luck. So I was on the last other coaster I had to ride, fittingly the How to Train Your Dragon one. It was funny that you mentioned the How to Train Your Dragon ride, the whole area. Because part of Epic Universe is a How to Train Your Dragon area, too.
Right, and I'm sure that's more sophisticated and open air, but it does have a water element there, which was interesting, because I did have that splash pad, but yeah, you're saying...
Yeah, but that whole How to Train Your Dragon area is really well done, even though I know nothing about the franchise. Like, I'm just like, oh, it's a cool-looking mountain thingy. Cool.
Oh, jelly! If I had been there, I would have talked your ear off about How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah. So I was there. I was on literally the last coaster the last ride period I had to get on besides Harry Potter, and I got in the single rider line, got on in a few minutes, and I got into a group of 3 other people because it was a 4-person car that you get into, and we were just talking as the ride is loading about, oh, which rides have you gotten on and stuff. And I'm like, well, I've gotten everything except Harry Potter. And they're like, oh, we have a 4-person virtual queue time right after this ride. And there's only 3 of us. Do you want to be our 4th? And I'm like, yes.
Whoa! Nice!
As we're walking to the Harry Potter ride, we're talking about, because they're like, oh, where are you from? And they're like, oh, they're actually travel agents that were there taking a bunch of pictures at the park for their travel agency. So they were stopping to take pictures of all the signs and like restaurants as we were walking to Harry Potter. And they asked me where I was from. I was like, oh, just north of Hartford, Connecticut, this town called Windsor. And one of them turned to me and was like, I'm from Torrington, which is like 15 minutes away.
What are the odds?
So, yeah, he's like, yeah, I just moved down to Florida like a year ago to join this travel agency. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was like a coincidence upon a coincidence of me just happening to get a place in this Harry Potter line. And then
next is the Connecticut
Harry Potter ride. Yeah, so we got to the Harry Potter ride. It was broken, unfortunately, which is very common for that ride. It seems like it's the one that they're having the most trouble getting running consistently, which is part of why they're still doing the virtual queue for it. But they wouldn't let us turn so the virtual queue thing we had was on one of their phones, and it's like, well, I'm not going to make you guys hang around with me the whole time, so oh well. But they were willing to go to the guest services to get separate fast passes for us instead.
What?
because that's what they do with if the ride breaks down while you have a queue time for it, they just turn it into like a fast pass.
Oh, okay,
so come back
that makes
and
sense.
Use it anytime. So when we went to guest services and explained our situation with just a little white lie about like, oh, we're in a party, we're gonna split up after this, and we were able to get separate physical fast passes. So I went back to Harry Potter after it opened, went to use my fast pass on it, and for some reason they didn't even scan it. They just let me in the line. So
yeah.
they're supposed to take a physical fast pass from you and scan it and stuff so it can't be used again. So, again, third stroke of luck in a row, I got on the Harry Potter ride, and then at the end of the night, I went for one more ride, a nighttime ride on Stardust Racers, the big coaster.
Oh,
because that ride has
cool.
Yeah, so I used my fast pass again for that.
Is it just like a general rule that theme parks look better at night? Because like I actually am glad that I waited until night to try the last ride with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, because that like stuff was lit up. The Zombieland Tower looked pretty cool, though I didn't do that because I just wasn't even into drop towers or anything that could turn to my stomach really fast. Though the rides that I did, even though were intense, did not have like inversions or things that would probably have really sent me for loop-de-loops. So
as far as like so some areas are definitely like theme parks in general, like some areas are built more for the daytime, some are built for the night. Like I could say for a fact the Mario area in Donkey Kong definitely looks better in like day. Like, bright blue sky and stuff on everything.
Makes sense.
Looks just like a Mario level. And then, yeah, that area looks better in the day. I think the How to Train Your Dragon area is probably more of a day area.
Yeah.
And then the Harry Potter and Monster areas are both very much nighttime areas. Like,
that makes
so
sense.
much going on.
I would say that, the Lionsgate area theming, I think that perhaps the Las Vegas like theming for for Now You See Me would have looked better at night, but I'm not sure about the theming for the Hunger Games statues and stuff outside. For DreamWorks, that's definitely an all-time thing because it's entirely indoors, but I imagine that in 102-degree weather like is common in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, then you would probably want to do that during the day. But like there's other parks nearby, like Legoland probably is a kiddie thing you'd want to do during the day, though I'm not sure about the heat for small children. Riverland definitely night, like the way that the displays lit up, and the little mini world that was free to enter and like see mini landmarks of was really interesting. And then I got to explore a T-Rex adventure cafe. I didn't sit down because at that point I was like, I gotta go, but it was really very tacky in the most fun way. And yeah, like I said, the Columbia area definitely looks better at night, because it really does look like the movie set's been lit up. And there was also, I forgot to mention, a Hollywood theater there that unfortunately was not very good, just because it wasn't open, and it only had one showing of one thing for pirates that looked fine, but like I would have thought that a classic Hollywood themed area of motiongatedubai, when the park entrance is a giant movie reel, would have been a little bit more interesting. Still, sounds like we both have really good theme park adventures, but how would you rank the lands of Epic Universe?
Are you talking theming or ride quality? Because that's two different things in my mind.
Because I think I'll try and go first with the theming. I think that DreamWorks is definitely the standout, and then Columbia and Lionsgate, and so it went for the rides. So, with that out of the way, how about you for theming?
Theming-wise, I would say, let's see. I think I love the main area of the park. It's called Celestial park.
Yes.
It's like very idyllic, you know, lots of greenery around, cool sort of star theming going on. I just like that they have kind of a vision for an alternate style. Yeah, nice. I like that. I like this vision of this park's like kind of Main Street. I think that's something Universal excels at, because it's similar to like, the port of entry at Islands of Adventure with Pharaoh's Lighthouse. It's like, yeah, it's. I
remember
think
that.
Excel at that stuff. Yeah.
I remember that for years at this point. So.
Yeah, that was the place where, like, you know, I kept, obviously, because it's kind of the middle spoke of, you know, it's very Magic Kingdom-esque the way the park's laid out, and it's very much the main street of that park, where it's kind of just, you know, where everything spokes off from. You're always coming back to it after coming back from whatever land you're in. But, I mean, it's just so, I really like how they did it. So that would be my number one theming-wise. I just love the vibe they're going for. Number two, probably How to Train Your Dragon, even though I know nothing about the franchise. It's just like, you know, the mountain they built there is pretty cool looking, and all the scenery around there, all the sort of important theming they have going on.
Oh yeah, you gotta check out the movies at this point, because they're really good.
Yeah, someday.
Or you could just check out the new live-action remake and literally not be able to tell the difference other than it being live.
Yeah, I'd probably much rather watch the animated ones if I was gonna.
Yeah, but, I was kidding, but
next, I would say Mario. Beyond just my personal affinity for it, I think it's honestly it's kind of a toss-up between that and How to Train Your Dragon. I think How to Train Your Dragon is better in terms of just pure theme park, like immersiveness. But Mario has sort of that personal touch for me of like, oh, this is literally like all the stuff that. If you could have flashed me back to 25 years ago, that I would be standing not only in a Mario-themed area, but with, like, an equally sized Donkey Kong-themed area, with, like, all the obscure Donkey Kong nonsense that's in there. It's like, it was insane.
Nice.
So, like, that was definitely the closest I came to tearing up, was seeing Funky Kong plane turned into a gift shop. I was like...
that would be how they would do that. Huh.
Yeah. So
it shows they really have love for this IP.
Yeah. So that would be very close with Isle of Berk, the How to Train Your Dragon area. Next, I would probably say Harry Potter. Again, it's basically just fake France with magical touches thrown in.
Right. I did like that scenery in Fantastic Beasts, and that is one of the more memorable scenes in that movie. And then what appears to have happened is that they wanted to have the French Ministry of Magic battle from that movie, but then they pivoted hard because of the failure of those movies.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't think anyone would have cared. So instead, they just went with de-aged, actual Harry Potter movie characters.
Right.
But yeah, theming-wise, really nice. Like, none of these lands have bad theming at all. Like, they're all, like, A- at the lowest, you know? So, like, the Harry Potter stuff, I could take or leave, like, the actual Harry Potter stuff, but, like, the theming of, like, you literally walk through this little, you know, metro station style gate, and it's like, oh, suddenly you're in, like, that's one thing that all of the epic lands do really well, it's just, like, having you fully immersed in whatever land you're in.
It's starting to get staticky again, I gotta turn it off and back on again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it appears that I need to resolve these things after a few minutes, no matter what I do with this headset. I really don't know why. This is supposed to be a brand new headset that's supposed to just fix these things. You know, or have it be easy to fix. And I'm also having the glitch again where half my fishing pole is out of frame, and it looks weird when I try to reel things in. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Okay, well, you're still getting static, but I think it's just gonna have to be how it is, unfortunately, because technology, who knows, anyway,
Oh yeah, and then the Monsters Land is really cool. I think
Yeah, Dark Universe.
Yeah, the actual ride there, both rides there are really cool, but especially the dark ride. Like, with all
Oh
the
yeah.
monsters popping out at you. That one was really just insanely impressive animatronics.
Yep, just like everybody thought.
The Harry Potter ride also had really, really good animatronics. Like, literally there are parts where they're blending the whole animatronic and screen effect thing where I'm like, I can't tell if that's actually an animatronic or part of, what's happening on screen. So, job well done on that.
Yeah, like the most impressive animatronics I saw were for Shrek, and they didn't have a ton of motion or anything. And then, yeah, How to Train Your Dragon was also really good, but it was still fairly limited. I think that e-ticket stuff, you really got to go to the main parks, like that. Though, I don't know if you heard that Disney just announced they're gonna build a place in Abu Dhabi. That probably is gonna be another one of those things where they just outsource the IP and give it to a native UAE park developer, which is not uncommon.
Similar to the Tokyo stuff, yeah.
But if it's even a quarter of the quality of Tokyo, it'll be fine. I gotta pick that up because for some reason... Okay, there we go. Now, you know what I think was the problem? I think I had... Uh-oh. Now I just have a ruby splashtail permanently stuck to my... Okay, there we go. It just was weird.
Okay.
It maybe the glitch is caused by having another fish on there, and like the game doesn't remember or something. I'm not sure, but well, so that sounds like it was a truly epic universe of fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I got back to my hotel. I actually went to City Walk, their downtown
Nice.
area.
Yeah,
because I was gonna after I rode everything once, I was like, all right, I have like 3 more hours in the park. I could either do another lap and do every ride again, or I could get a bus over to one of the other Universal parks. And I was kind of torn on that, but then I was like, you know what? I'm here. I paid the money. Let me just do every ride again. I was a little bit tired by that point, but I still had enough in me to do another lap around.
yeah.
And so after that, the park closed at 9, and I was like, well, now I have a second win, so I'm going to go get some food at City Walk. And so I ended up staying up until about midnight. Got to my hotel and had to catch my flight at 5 a.m.
It's a very similar prospects to me, where I was like, okay, I am tired, but I really need food in me, and I have this Arabian dinner on my Go City Pass, so I might as well try that. In theory, if I had known where I was going and not been tricked by weird address names to get a bolt to a different Al Halab that was like, sorry, we don't take this. This is at the mall, and then not gotten lost in the stupid parking structure. Because the driver was like, you picked the wrong one, and now we have to do this weird drop-off procedure, and I'm like, why is this hotel such a maze? Why is this city laid out like uncooked spaghetti? But and sometimes the mall does feel like it's big for bigness' sake to say we have the most impressively sized mall, but it is really huge. And once I saw the Dubai Aquarium, which was this huge screen, and then the aquarium beneath that. So probably the whole thing was layered, aquariums just with a giant screen. I was like, you know what? I would have loved to have gone to that, but I think I was also like, well, I've been to an aquarium with Ushaka Marine World, which was really impressive. I forgot to mention they basically built it out of an old, it wasn't like a reused ship. They built it specifically for this, but they did use a ship to build it. And so there were portholes, and little man was like, "Oh, it's Patrick," because he's been obsessively quoting the Plankton movie. It's really good. I'm glad that SpongeBob is back a little bit. That they are like, "Hey, let's do this that's new," and it's really good. Somehow they nailed it. But, that and, Meet the Stars of Finding Nemo with Clownfish and such. So I was like, okay, I've seen aquariums, but probably I would have liked to get more out of my city pass if I had known things. If I'm ever on a layover again, that's probably what I'll do. You know, for Dubai, because I'm sure that I'm gonna rack up some miles with Emirates if I fly direct to South Africa again. But maybe for August, when I go back to see them in Swaziland, and I'm just not doing a ton of activities, just like hanging out at their place and meeting her dad, who is excited to meet me, and you know, that's not nerve-wracking at all. But like, well, he seems like a really nice guy who's just happy that she's happy. And anyway, I'll probably take like United to Cape Town and then an extension thing. I'm gonna discuss that because it's like gonna be the weekend right after my sister's wedding in August. So the coordination's gonna be tight, and it's gonna need to be with my parents. But yeah, looks like we both had really good travel times. What was not awesome was hearing that Respawn got laid off a bunch. Like, come on! I thought they were printing money with Apex and Star Wars, and you know.
I mean, Apex feels like it's been on a downward trend.
True, but they keep making them
really kept up.
They keep them at the nose to the grindstone with that, so it's like, well, I guess maybe they laid off a significant chunk of the team who were working on the Titanfall extraction shooter. But like, a Titanfall extraction shooter would have been better than the nothing we've had since Titanfall 2 back in 2016. Come on. Like, imagine being able to call down a Titan and then fight your way to an extraction point. Oh, that would have been so awesome. But well, I mean, who knows? Maybe the game was in a terrible state and it wasn't doing well, but like, BioWare says that the Dragon Age team wasn't supported. It just seems like the big goal of EA and other AAA publishers is to do as minimal investment in everything as possible to just have a viable product out so that they can keep avoiding risk, rather than actually making changes or investments in IPs that people actually want. Oh, I fell off the ship. Derp.
Well, we're just heading to an outpost anyways.
Okay, yeah, I'll just mermaid when we can. Like, well, at least for the rest of 2025, everybody's breathing a sigh of relief because GTA 6 got delayed to 2026. That was another bombshell piece of news that was like, wow.
Yeah. And we actually have a concrete date now, so yeah. So unless it gets delayed again, it's like, okay, now people can plan around a specific date.
Yeah, including competitors. Let me just see what that is again. May 26th. Well, that'll be a good birthday present to myself. Late birthday present. So I was gonna get Revenge of the Savage Planet for my birthday for myself at GameStop, but then that got on Game Pass, so I tried that out for a little bit today. I'm not sure I like the change to third person, but overall it is a bit tighter of a gameplay loop. It's just that kind of wacky, like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make this kind of energy, was part of the appeal for me. However, you know, maybe that's a net benefit to the game, because it makes the platforming a little less tricky. And now there's split screen co-op in it because, well, I guess they decided to go for it, the Mad Lads. And you can really feel the frustration at basically being sent off on this new project by Google and then being told, sorry, we're closing down. You're on your own, in the way the premise is handled. And it seems like the humor is not as great, unfortunately, at least at first. I guess we'll see. But, I mean, some of it was kind of too off the wall to really stick, like some of the commercials. But it was very, very funny by just virtue of shock. And now it's like, oh, grab, I've seen that before. Alright, we can just give that a very easy and uneventful voyage. That's just what you want with this game.
I'll take it.
Anyway, like, yeah, I mean, that was a solid thing, but now I'm thinking maybe Borderlands 4 I can put that money on. I was kind of tempted thinking Nintendo Switch 2 because there have been reports that Nintendo is warning people that the price may go up after the tariffs. Like, they can only guarantee this price for so long for Nintendo Switch 2s. And, but then I was like, what am I really missing out on exactly? Sure, it would be fun to give Little Man a Nintendo Switch 2, but I could probably import a Wii and they would just be fine with that, because that's the only system that Bobo seems to be interested in. She'll definitely try Xbox games with me when she gets to the States, hopefully. But, like, she's not a big gamer. That's fine. And Tato, or my son, he mostly plays, he mostly plays iPad games. Though we did play quite a few TV games, on the smart TV. And, well, anyway, so the iPad games first, because that was with my account from years and years ago. I helped him a little bit get into Plants vs. Zombies, but he was more, like, immediately getting of, the Spider-Man games that I bought years and years ago, licensed, from Gameloft. Back when it was like, okay, this is Spider-Man video games at home. First for Ultimate Spider-Man, and then for the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So, like, 2010, 11-ish.
Yeah. Can I just sidetrack a little bit?
Sure.
It's really funny you mention that, because I literally bought the 360 version of Amazing Spider-Man last week.
Ah! Well, I look forward to your impressions of that, on our offline thing when we finish Split Fiction. But, yeah, he's really into that stuff. And he also really picked up on Chopper 2, which is such a phenomenal classic iOS game that Game Club bought the rights to that and allows people to re-download it without a membership if they originally bought it. So I can still play that on my modern iPad, which is really cool. But for his classic thing, it worked flawlessly. Same with Spider HD, though he wasn't as much into that. And then things like, unfortunately, there seems to be a huge issue with save games not working on many of these story-based games, like the Spider-Man ones and Nova 2, which I was impressed. He was shooting aliens with the touch controls, you know, like a champ. But yeah, it was not the easiest thing in the world to be like, oh man, I can't really progress so much because I had to keep, like, there was one section where if I died, the world wouldn't load correctly, so I had to take over from him for a little bit to make sure he could actually play that part of the game. But I think he's not, like, super, you know, bothered about completing games. He just likes playing these things to play them. And he also just liked playing a very, very simple version of snooker that he was really good at, and a very, very simple version of Snakes and Ladders that he was also good at. Literally every other game I tried on that freaking smart TV had like 15 frames per second. Like, there was one Outrun clone, I think it is, the Sega Genesis racer, where it looks 3D but it isn't.
Yep.
Yeah, Outrun. Where like the drifting was impossible and I kept crashing into trees. There was a submarine depth charging game that was impossible for the same reason. And there was a clone of Space Invaders that was underwater with like octopi, whatever, that was also fine, but was very bad in terms of input latency. Like, that is a huge thing for me, because I tried the original Pac-Man on the plane, for instance, and that did not go so well. But you know what is going well so far is Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Did you get to play a little bit more of that?
Oh, have I been playing that? That's pretty much the only game I've been playing the past couple weeks.
Oh, man!
I'm like 20, 25 hours in. I'm in the middle of Act 2 right now. I don't know how long... I mean, I've heard the game is like 30 hours if you mainline it.
Huh.
If you really do all the side stuff. So I'm guessing I'm probably around the halfway point. But yeah, probably my game of the year so far.
Wow.
Hell of a game.
I mean,
Yeah.
it seems to be
It's
getting higher
incredible
reviews
combat.
than the entire Final Fantasy series on Steam, so clearly there's something that struck a nerve, and it was a former Ubisoft player who, or developer, who made it.
Yeah, I don't really like the sort of, infighting between RPG fans that goes on around like, oh, this is what Final Fantasy should have been. It's like, well, this game's clearly inspired by Final Fantasy. Like, it's not like it's trying to one-up it, It's got a lot of little Final Fantasy, little Lost Odyssey. I saw an interview with one of the devs who was like, yeah, I love Lost Odyssey. The combat system, a lot of the camera angles and stuff are very Lost Odyssey.
Interesting.
So a lot of that, I think a lot of the Persona comparisons are very surface level, just based on some of the UI and stuff. The combat is not really Persona at all. Definitely closer to either Final Fantasy 13 or Lost Odyssey. But
I can see the Final Fantasy 13 because I didn't really play much enough of Lost Odyssey to really get into it. But I can
a lot
see
of the tone of the story. A lot of the tone of the story feels very Lost Odyssey, and a lot of the direction.
I'll take your word for that.
Yeah. So once I read that, I was like, okay, I definitely see that now.
Oh, I think I may have cooked fish in the thingy. Hang on. But yeah, you keep going on. I'm gonna check.
Yeah, so I'm the game is very, very breakneck pace for an RPG, which I don't mind slower paced RPGs personally, but I see why a lot of people are really gravitating to this one because I think it definitely has a wider appeal in terms of getting you going quickly. Like that first half hour.
Yeah.
By the end of that, it's like, okay, I'm into whatever's going on here, and it only escalates from there. Like the end of Act 1 has a hell of a finish too, and then you get it
I'm still very much in Act 1, or I'd be talking about that with you for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say anything specific, but ooh, crazy. And then, I was literally up. I had to work the next morning, but I was up till midnight.
Oh man!
I finished the boss at the end of Act 1. I was like, all right, let me wrap it up here. But then stuff kept happening, and then I left off in a place where I'm like, I can't stop playing now because stuff happens in between Act 1 and Act 2 where I'm like, I need to know. Just play the next 10-15 minutes to see what's going on.
Yeah, that could be deadly.
Yeah.
Man,
so
that's me and sorry.
I'm gonna finish saying I'm absolutely enthralled by this game still. It's doing pretty much everything right. The only negative I could even try to spin on it is the mini games, but at the same time, I feel like RPGs are almost a staple of any RPGs, having some weird shoehorned in minigame that doesn't quite work right. So even that is staying true to tradition.
Yeah, and it seems
there are these
sorry.
There are these beach areas you'll come across that have these little minigames. One of them's not too bad. The one I did the other day was definitely the worst part of the game so far. But it was short. It took a few tries to dial it in. Then I was done with it and I moved on. But definitely the only weak point I can find so far.
Yeah, that's kind of been me and a game about digging a hole on my Steam Deck so far as I cannot stop playing this thing. But yeah, I've been getting a little bit more into it. I think I've been beating my head against a wall with a side boss that is clearly supposed to be very strong, much stronger than me, but the strength of this game's combat system is just how it can feel like it's still very fair, even if you get your butt kicked. That you didn't dodge right or block right or whatever, but then when you parry and do a massive counter, you feel wow, I really did that. Yeah. That was awesome.
I did one of the bosses very early, just dialing in the parry timing and doing, I think at the end of the stats at the end of the battle were I did 150 parries against him because he would fight me if I didn't. So you just you dial in the parry timing. It's you can literally, if you wanted to beat one of the, because there are some super bosses I've run into and I've, not fought them because I'm okay, this will take 1,000 parries in a row to even get them down.
Dang.
Some people have though. That's a cool thing. Is you can totally do it if you really feel like dialing in your parries.
Or you could find one busted sword and do 3 billion damage, which That's being nerfed.
I saw that. But yeah, and the nice thing about that is building out your characters. Once I realized, like, I want to go all in on the parrying and get good on the timing, why put any points into defense? I'm going pretty much straight luck, attack, and agility.
That's a good point.
Getting a lot of crits, getting a ton of crits on those turns, and doing a lot of damage, depending on the character.
I tend to...
They do let you respec pretty freely.
Yeah,
like, you'll start getting, like, respec tokens pretty... Like, I have, like, maybe 20 of them right now.
Wow.
And I still feel comfortable about what I put my points into. Like, everything's working out for me so far. Just not using defense at all, and just like, hey, don't get hit, and you don't need defense.
Well, I mean, that's a good point I hadn't thought of.
Cannon as it gets. But,
well,
if you don't feel like playing that way, it's pretty flexible. If you want to put some points in defense and survive attacks, that's totally cool too.
Yeah, I've been I haven't really known what I want to do, so I've been doing the typical approach where I try to spread things out to account for weaknesses. Like if somebody's health is getting damaged quite a bit, then I put a few more points into their health. But I suppose that Loon, I believe her name is, the starting girl, she seems like a glass cannon mage. And so, like, what I've been doing is I've been giving her extra action points with one of Gustav's skills, and then using her to heal him as the tank.
Yeah, she's my speed character. Getting a lot of her, like, powerful moves off constantly really, really does a number on, especially bosses. Like, a lot of the stats don't come into play because a lot of the regular enemy fights, once you get good, then you're beating them in 1 or 2 turns anyways. But
yeah.
For the bosses, most of them you're not going to be beating in 1 or 2 turns unless you get. There are some things you can do. Like, I have a move that'll slow characters, and that can definitely buy you a few more turns before they even get a hit on you. But yeah, I love the flexibility. I love just pretty much everything about it so far. I'm struggling to find anything negative to say. It's just that good.
It seems like they really knew what they wanted to do. They had passion for it, and they executed well, including by somehow managing to get Gustav looking almost exactly like Robert Pattinson. Because again, I'm still of the conspiracy theory mindset that they knew they wanted a movie at first, and they knew what kind of pitch they had with the story, and like, seriously, this will be an amazing movie one day. For all the people who do not know how good this game's universe is, just quite yet. And so this is definitely like the success story of the year so far for a new IP, and it's absolutely well deserved. So yeah. But speaking of movies, I'm gonna let you go and then watch The Accountant 1 before my mom comes over for my birth weekend to get me to see The Accountant 2 in theaters. I mean, autistic heroes for the win. Anyway, so yeah, when's your next availability, my friend?
Possibly Saturday. If not Saturday, then probably Tuesday.
Well, let's if whether it's Saturday or Tuesday, I'm gonna probably want to just chill and finish Split Fiction anyway. If you end up being around for only Tuesday, that's cool. I'm very flexible. I'm back to just having a lot of time on my hands. So, yeah.
I'll let you know.
Alrighty then. Well, I'm glad that you had an amazing trip. I'm just so happy with the lights in my life. My fiance and son. It's just kind of sinking in now. But yeah, you have a good one, my friend, and we'll talk later.
Yeah, I'll catch you soon. Bye.
Catch you all later as well. Hopefully, this was not a total disaster when it came to audio.